You've probably heard the name Hilton. It's on fancy hotels all over the world, connected to money, fame, and success. But what if the man behind it all, Conrad Hilton, didn't exactly play fair to build his empire? This isn't just a story about business smarts or the American dream. It's about how Hilton used carefully crafted stories, some big exaggerations, and maybe even a few lies to get ahead. From bending the truth about his early struggles, to covering up major financial problems, and even hiding personal scandals, there's a lot about Conrad Hilton's life that never made the headlines. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the real story. What did Conrad Hilton not want the world to know? And how much of his success was built on smoke and mirrors? Before Conrad Hilton became the king of hotels, he was just a small-town kid from New Mexico. Born in 1887 in a dusty mining town called San Antonio, not the one in Texas, he grew up in a big Catholic family. His father ran a general store, and young Conrad helped out, learning how to sell things and deal with people. After a short stint in college and a failed run in politics, Hilton moved to Texas during the oil boom. That's where everything changed. In 1919, he bought his first hotel in Cisco, Texas, the Mobley Hotel. It wasn't fancy, but it was always full of oil workers, and Hilton quickly realized something. He could make a lot more money renting rooms by the hour instead of by the day. That's when his focus shifted. He wasn't just trying to make money, he wanted to build something bigger. And soon, one hotel turned into many. But even in these early days, Hilton started shaping a story about himself that wasn't always 100% true. As Hilton's business started to grow, so did his image, but not everything about it was real. Conrad liked to present himself as a hard-working underdog, someone who built his empire from nothing. And while it's true he worked hard, he also had help and made some questionable moves along the way. In his early years, Hilton tried to get into politics. He even served in the New Mexico legislature for a while, but he later told people he left politics because it was full of lying, cheating, and inside deals. What he didn't mention was that he wasn't exactly above those tricks himself. Hilton carefully crafted his public image. In interviews, he often played up his religious background and love for family and America. But behind the scenes, he was fiercely ambitious and sometimes ruthless. He exaggerated his struggles to make his successes sound more impressive. He also downplayed how much financial help he got from his family and investors in those early years. Over time, the myth grew. Hilton wasn't just a businessman anymore, he became a symbol of the American dream. But that dream was carefully edited. And as his empire expanded, so did the gap between the real Conrad Hilton and the version the public saw. One of the biggest myths about Conrad Hilton is that he always made smart business decisions that led to smooth success. The truth? He nearly lost everything, more than once. In the late 1920s, Hilton got bold. He started building huge hotels, like the Dallas Hilton, even as warning signs of an economic crash were starting to show. When the Great Depression hit in 1929, Hilton was in deep trouble. His company was drowning in debt. He lost control of many of his hotels and was forced to manage them for other owners just to stay afloat. But later on, Hilton told the story differently. He made it sound like he had everything under control. He left out the part where he was nearly bankrupt and barely hanging on. He also didn't talk much about how he used other people's money, investors, banks, even government programs, to bounce back. And bounce back, he did. Hilton slowly rebuilt during the 1930s and 40s, eventually buying back his hotels and expanding again. But the image he put out, of a man who never failed and always climbed upward, wasn't the full story. There were also rumors of shady business deals. Some claimed Hilton used personal connections in high places to get favorable terms on loans and property deals. While there's no proof he broke any laws, it's clear he knew how to work the system. The Hilton empire didn't grow on clean deals and perfect timing. It grew on risk, spin, and a little luck, and Conrad made sure people only saw the parts he wanted them to see. Conrad Hilton was also pretty careful about how he presented his personal life. He talked a lot about faith and values, but behind the scenes, his relationships were messy, and some parts of his private life were quietly covered up. He was married 3 times. His first marriage to Mary Barron gave him 4 children, including Baron Hilton, who would later take over the business. But the marriage ended badly, and Hilton didn't like to talk about the divorce much. He painted it as a sad but necessary part of his journey, another example of struggle turned into strength. His most talked about relationship was with actress Zsa Gabor. They were married for just over a year, and it was full of drama. Gabor later claimed that the marriage was abusive and even said she was pregnant with Hilton's child, but had an abortion after pressure from him. Hilton never responded publicly, and the story was mostly swept under the rug. Later, he married a much younger woman, Mary Frances Kelly, but that also didn't last long. In public, Hilton kept a clean image: family man, faithful Catholic, honorable businessman. But those who knew him personally said he was demanding, emotionally distant, and more concerned with his legacy than his loved ones. Like many powerful people, Hilton controlled his narrative. He let the public see the father figure and humble success story while keeping the messier parts of his life out of view. As Hilton got older, he started focusing more on his legacy. In the 1940s, he set up the Conrad Hilton Foundation, a charitable organization meant to support causes like clean water, education, and helping the poor. On paper, it looked like a generous move from a man who had made it big. But some critics say it was also a smart way to protect his image. By pouring money into good causes and tying his name to them, Hilton made sure he'd be remembered as more than just a businessman. It also helped soften some of the rough edges of his past: failed marriages, business struggles, and stories people might not want to hear. In fact, Hilton famously said that there should be no restrictions on how his foundation used its money, as long as it helped people. That sounds great, but it also gave the foundation a lot of flexibility in choosing causes that reflected well on his name. Was it real generosity or a long-term PR move? Maybe both. But one thing's clear: Conrad Hilton was just as focused on shaping how people remembered him as he was on building hotels. As the Hilton brand spread across the globe, so did the story of its founder, a self-made man who turned a dusty Texas hotel into a world-famous empire. But by now, you can probably see, this wasn't the full picture. Hilton was a smart businessman, no doubt. He was one of the first to bring hotels into airports, connect them to travel hubs, and offer modern comforts like air conditioning and private bathrooms as standard features. He turned hotel stays into an experience, but he didn't do it alone, and it wasn't always smooth. Hilton's empire wasn't built just on business deals. It was built on controlling the story, and for decades, most people believed it. Like this video? Make sure to subscribe because there's a lot more scandals about to come to light. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see next.